Dustin Ely, and I'm here with my good buddy Rob Wilton, and he is the pastor of Vintage Church in New Orleans, Louisiana. And they have just successfully undergone a church merger, but that has not always been the case. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Doing it wrong the first time and doing it right this time.
The first experience, I think, was I wasn't pastorally engaged. I was very driven towards what we're learning this week in Orlando, the success. I need numbers, and I was plowing over people instead of listening to people, applying the gospel to people, loving people. So I was at such a pace that I wasn't really listening to anybody who was there. And when you inherit an older congregation like that, they're not all bad people. Sure. They've just been operating under a certain way for so many years, right. And you've got to hear their story. You've got to appreciate what the gospel's done in their life, what the gospel's done in that church family's life, even though you might have inherited a dead church at that time. I think that the pastoral lesson was a lesson that needed to be learned in my life to truly get to know those people, love those people, and then begin to apply the gospel. I just kind of gospel plowed them. Right. And they got their backs against the wall and started to fight, and at that point in time they had more people than we had, and they won the vote, and
that's right,
they removed me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you're doing that differently this time.
Yeah. What
are some things that are making it work this time in addition to that?
The things that we learned, there are about 4 or 5 major things that we learned in this. Number one, what really helped us was that we had a proven record.
Okay.
Beforehand, I was just a guy with a dream.
Right.
What could they trust? The second time, I had a congregation of 200 plus people, and we were doing things. Mm-hmm. So I had a proven record. So I'd say if you're a guy by yourself just wanting to come in and plant in an already established church, you can't pile drive people because you don't have a proven record.
Sure.
The second thing I'd say is that it was very clear to us that God had prepared the soil. And you just know, sometimes you walk into a place and you know, okay, this is going to be a fight. We're going to have to pray. We're going to have to love. From the moment we walked onto this property and started to meet these people, God had been ahead of us. And the time was right. The third thing is that they were just different, desperate people. The other congregation that kicked me out, they weren't really wanting change. They just wanted someone to do their work for them. Mm-hmm. These people were desperate for change, because they saw the lostness in their community and desperately wanted to reach that community for Christ. I think the fourth thing was our pastoral pursuit of those people. We spent our entire fall, this last fall of 2010, loving those people. I sent out a campus leader who we're praying we will ordain as a pastor elder of our church. He's going through our process. Did a great job in the fall of preaching for them every Sunday, loving them, hospital visits, winning them over, so that when the time came for us to vote, we just established that this was God's timing. And when we came up for the vote, it was almost unanimous, and all those factors kind of played into this, but it's been great to see in such a short span of time how much God has matured us. Good. And prepared us, and we went through what we went through 2.5 years ago to prepare us for this. When we first came to this church, they had 8 people there on a Sunday morning. This past Sunday we had 70 plus.
That's great.
So God's moving, and we're excited.
That's great. Well, if you got one thing to say to a guy that's watching this, and maybe he's been approached for a church merger, or he's interested in doing this in some capacity in the future, what would be that one thing be?
I think the biggest thing is, after spending some time with those people at that place, can you sense that God has prepared the soil?
That's good.
Because if God's not in it, it ain't happening. You can forget it. Like, no amount of chains are going to be broken from traditionalism, wanting to change, all that kind of stuff. Really cool story, show you how God's prepared those people in the soil. The matriarch of the church, I think she's 70 plus, showed up last week. She somehow got our logo, and she got her son to print out our logo on a hooded sweatshirt. She comes up to me, she shows me this cool hooded sweatshirt, and she actually said, "I think all our members should get this logo tattooed." So like, really, really cool. God's in that.
That's great.
How do you explain that? God's prepared the soil. He's prepared the hearts of the people. So if you feel like there's a resistance that God's not in that, it doesn't matter how good of a leader you are, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Well, brother, thanks for sharing your heart and your story.
Thanks. Appreciate
This will
it.
help a lot of guys.